Hello and welcome to the virtual village hall. I hope you're really well today. I'm Rachel from I Printed That. Normally you'll find me on here doing lots of printmaking, getting really messy, but today we are going back to basics because we're just going to be using something as simple as a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper, because I'm going to show you how to make some botanical illustrations with just a few marks. So we're going to just use tiny little circles, we're going to use some little swirly lines, and we're going to use some really basic shapes to create some lovely botanical illustrations. So if you're ready to join me, get your pens, pencils and paper ready. It could be any paper, something as basic as just the back of an envelope, printer paper, a page torn out of a sketchbook, or you can even incorporate this into your sketchbooks, because any art you do really does start with a little sketch, and this is just a way of planning and getting some really lovely results for some very basic equipment. So if you're ready, I'm going to pop you down and we'll get started. So today I'm going to be showing you how to create a sunflower botanical illustration. As I said, it's really simple. It looks a little bit more complicated than it really is, but it's really just a series of circles, swirls, dashes, and sort of a few basic shapes. So I've got a piece of scrap paper here as well. I've got the backs of my envelope so we can do some little practices before we actually go into it. But I'm going to start straight on the paper that you're going to be drawing on, just by making a circle made of small circles. Now when I say circle, it doesn't need to be drawn with a compass. You really can do this by eye. So start towards the top of your paper, so sort of or maybe just above the middle, because we want to include a stalk and also some leaves for this. If you want, just mark a little point in the middle. Just, I hope you can see that, just almost a pinprick mark, and then just around that, just draw some small circles to make up a circle. And then we're going to just pop those, we're just going to fill those in with some more circles. So these don't have to be like 100% circular. Little kind of oval shapes are good as well. And they don't need to all be in a line. You know, we're keeping it very natural. So just fill those in. Okay, and that's the first bit done. So nice and easy. Now we want to do two other circles around the outside. So if I find it quite useful to measure. So if you just take your finger, and I just do it from the first little joint, and I'm going to just mark just 4 around the outside, and then I'm going to just fill in the spaces with dots, and it's almost like we're just playing dot to dot. So if you can see there, I've done this first circle, and then just the length of up to the first joint, from my fingertip up to my first joint. I'm sure there's a word for that part. Any people who love biology, you can let me know in the comments what that part of your finger's called. And then I've just used that to mark around the edge. And now I'm going to fill that in with dots as well. So these are just going to be little pinpricks, nice and close together. Again, they don't need to be in a straight line or in a sort of a really curved line. And this is forming the centre of our sunflower. So I'm just looking at that, and I'm a little bit off, so I'm just going to fill it in a little bit more. just with the second line, just neatening it all off. Okay, and then just a little bit within that line, we're just going to make some more dots. So maybe kind of about 1/2 centimetre in, something like that. And that's just going to give us a guide to then fill this in with some kind of just little oval shapes. So just like that. And then fill in the middle with the oval shapes as well. Again, we want them sort of random sizes. They don't have to be all in a straight line. And these are acting as some of the little pollen, where the pollen sits. On some sunflower forms. And if you look at sunflowers, there are so many different varieties. Yeah, we think of the kind of the giant basic yellow ones, but so many different colours, different sizes. Okay, so that's simple enough. Now we just want to fill in this middle circle. So again, quite close together. And if you look at the centre of a sunflower, it's not actually as random as we might think. It's got again, I don't know the correct word for it, but it's got sort of like mathematical shapes to it. So with this one, don't be quite so random. But just fill in the middle. With these. And then we're going to start just putting this sort of I don't know if, again, maybe a helix shape, for want of a better word. So all I did, so we're looking at 6 shapes. So if it's helpful, you could just kind of draw these in like this. So we've got 1, 2, 3, that's going to be 4, that's going to be 5, and that's going to be 6. And then you can either make dots if you don't want to go straight in with a circle. And you can see I've just crossed them over. So let me just show you on the pen, on just this scrap bit of paper. So if you imagine that this is the top of our circle in the middle, and then what I've done dots like that, and then we're going to keep going. Quickly fill that in for you. And then these, we're going to have these as, we fill these in with dots. But I haven't done them quite as bold as this because I don't want that to show too much. I don't want those lines to show on my pencil. But that's basically what I've done in the middle. So I've crossed those over. So I'm just going to follow along those lines. And at this point, I'm just going to colour them in. so they'll stand out. Okay, and then we go on to our next one. It's helpful to turn the page as you do it. So just take a step back, just check it's all looking okay, and it is. I might actually fit a couple more in here. Okay, so we're starting to build up the center of our sunflower. So now we just want to fill in all these gaps just with circles. And you, at this point as well, you could just do a few random sort of infills in the bit in the middle so that it separates it from this main part. So colour in more than you don't. And then we just start filling in. And as you're doing this, if you work along with those lines that you made, to a certain extent, you'll start to get this nice flow. So far all we've done is just drawn some circle sort of shapes, oval shapes, and made some dots with the tip of the pen. I'm just going to colour that in a little bit more. That needs a little bit more definition. Actually, I'll come back to those. We'll come back to that. It's good to kind of look at it as from a whole. Okay, so just take a step back and just see where you might need to just define some of those circles, or those darker circles that we coloured in. Just give that middle a bit of interest. Okay, that looks good. I might just do a few more. Just to make that centre stand out. Okay, that's great. So let's work on our heads. Again, we're going to just colour some of those in. And not all of them, just some of them. Just almost to give that sort of a halo. In fact, just take a step back. There's definite definition. And then we're just going to link these up to this side. So I just want you to make a series of just dashes. Try not to make them straight. So rather than that, we just want to sort of a wisp, really. Okay. You can overlap them. I missed some circles there. I'm trying to take that in a little bit more. Okay, again, just take a step back, just fill in any bits to balance it out. Okay, so now we want to start putting our petals into shape. So I normally start with about 16 petals around the outside, and the shape for these is almost like a bit of an onion shape. So let's just have a practice at drawing those. So we've got this sort of bulb at the end, and then it goes off to the tip, and then I would start from the tip and then go back down, mirroring that. Okay, so just draw a few of those to get used to that. And then if you want to, you can put maybe a little curl at the end, at the top. Those petals, sometimes those sunflower petals, they curl up. So just practice for a second some of those shapes. And we're going to want 16 of these all the way around. They'll form our main petals, and then we can start filling it in with the other ones. So I normally draw the 4 sides and then I can fill them in. And I've already lost count. 10. Okay, probably going to get these large ones in. And then we can go back and then fill in these little ones. I've kind of just got little shapes. If you've got any little gaps, just fill those in with smaller petals. Now, sometimes some of the small petals come in front of the large petals themselves. So we're just going to draw a few small, so the same shape, but just smaller petals. So not too many, just a few. And then we want to add more to the outside as well. So just take a look where you're missing some petals. So I'm missing a bit around here. So I might just turn it round. Again, just take a step back and then we're just filling in where you kind of feel there's a little bit of a gap. And that could be 1 or 2 petals. And how big you go really is up to you, how many petals you want to keep adding. But I think that's enough for us for the moment. So now we just want to create all this detail onto those petals. So think about the ones behind. They are being shadowed slightly by the ones in front. So let's do a little bit of work on those. So I'm just filling in quite a bit the sort of where the petals meet. And then just taking the line up to a few little broken lines and then move on to the next one. So a bit of shadow. Let's go with those outside ones first. And if you notice, I'm not doing straight lines. They're all, I'll show you on here. Example. They're curved, so you're getting a sense. So we're showing that those petals themselves are curved. Sorry, I'll bring it closer to you. Okay, that's good. So now let's go for the petals that are more sort of centre. So this is just the same thing, but you don't need to do such a sort of a dark line as you come up. So again, we just want to go those curved lines, concentrate on the outsides, and then just a few in the middle. Bring some of them all the way up, some of them broken. And then you can just start to see this taking more of a 3D effect. Just put a little bit of a shadow in that one. And then you're just going to spend a few minutes just filling all of these in. And then just every now and then just take a step back, have a look, see how it's getting on. See if you need a bit more shadow in places, or some places that you think, no, I'm going to leave that one quite plain. Or if you've overdone one, don't worry, just kind of learn from it. And if you are watching live today, hello, I hope you're really well, or if you're watching on replay, it's lovely to have you here at the Virtual Village Hall. Please do pop in the comments, say hi. We always love to know where you're watching from, or if you're drawing along, or if you think, oh, I could actually give this a go, this doesn't look too difficult, then we always love to see your pictures here on Virtual Village Hall. So if you have a go, then please do post in the comments your photos. Always love to see them. Okay, so I'm just having a look, and I just want to, I think I want a bit more shade here. Okay, last petal, then I'll just have a look. And see how we're getting on. See if I need to add anything. Okay, I think that's fine for now. Okay, so we've done our main flower head. So now we want to think about the leaves. So we're just going to do a few other little practice drawings. So a sunflower leaf is effectively like an elongated heart with some veins in it. So in a minute we're going to be drawing a stem, and then we're just going to be adding a leaf as well. So you might just want to practice that. So the stem is going to come from behind, and they're quite thick stems. So we just want to come up the side. And then you're just going to come off of that, and this is going to make up a leaf. like that. That's what we're going to be drawing in a minute. And then the leaf, as I said, is this heart shaped. If we put the veins in first, so there's quite a few veins at the top, and then it seems to spread out and go to a point, and then just work back the other way, mirroring those lines. And then we're going to complete the shape by adding the sort of this heart almost, and then it's got sort of a slightly zigzaggy leaf, which comes down into a point and then comes back up the other side. I can actually drop that down a bit more. Yeah, when I do it for real, I'll drop it down a bit more. Okay, and then like we just did with the petals, we're just going to be filling these in. Just to create a little bit of sort of a 3D effect. Okay, so if you want to have a little bit more practice on those leaves, so if you're watching on replay, you can pause it, or if you're watching live, you can come back at a later date. This will be on the Virtual Village Hall Facebook page and YouTube channels. So I just want to darken up a few little bits of those. That's cool. It's knowing when to stop, isn't it? Okay, so if you imagine our stem, it comes from the center, so it will go behind here. They tend to come up, so we're going to come like this, and then it's going to come from behind the flower and slowly come down. Then we're going to come back the other way, and then if you just imagine this space is going to be filled with the leaf. I'll bring that over now. Come back the other way. And there's they're slightly hairy, the stem, so let's just give it a little bit of texture. And then we're going to add that leaf. Down into the point. Mirror the other way. And back the other side, so we're going a little bit closer. And then we're going to end it there. And then we just want to draw just lines, thicken up those lines. Just on one side. There's a little bit more. The other side, some broken lines, some solid lines. Yep. And there we have a fine line botanical drawing, just really made up with lots of circles, some very basic shapes, and just some fine detailing to really bring that into a 3D shape. So I hope you've enjoyed today's session. It's given you a little bit of inspiration to have a go yourself. And this sort of idea of just building up your flower just with tiny little dots, little dashes, little circles, tiny little ovals, and then just adding the petals and those detail lines can really help you to get an idea of how to draw flowers. So why not give it a go with other flowers with a very basic shape, ones that have a centre and then the petals around it. And also take a look at those leaf shapes and how you can incorporate what we've learnt today into making your own botanical illustrations. So thank you for joining me. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye.